One.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hardware Podcast. My name's Jackson Danner alongside my good friend Omar Borja. We are back from our little break following the regular season. So it was awesome. Good to be back as always. Omar is not participating in Hula Bowl Media Days with that beautiful number, very nice 69 game cut jersey. He bought it off of eBay. So it's a pretty cool cut, man. How do you get that?
So I went to the game last year, kind of broke some rules and without the proper paperwork, but I ended up back in Augusta like early Sunday morning, like 2-3 in the morning. So no one noticed. But that's another story. But yeah, I got it for last year's game. Was blessed to attend it being in Georgia last year. Got a nice Spirit flight, did not fly Southwest, it was good. It was a great game. And this is honestly, the Hula Bowl is one of my favorite All-Star games just because of the unique history. I'd like it even more if it was back in Hawaii, but that's just a different story. But I just love the Hula Bowl. It's tied with the East West Shrine Bowl as my favorite All-Star game.
Absolutely, man. No, the Hula Bowl is a lot of fun. It's one of those that has a new feeling to it with it being in the bounce house, but it has so much history and tradition, kind of like we see with the Shrine Bowl being in the big Roomba, right? But it's something that I know Omar's not a fan of
Oh,
this East West Shrine Bowl on a Thursday night in the big Roomba, but it has a little bit of a new-ish feeling to it. But it's got so much. I mean, this dates back to the 40s, man. Like this All-Star game is as storied as any. So I guess that's a good way to get started. Omar, tell us a little bit about the history of it. Obviously, this year it's going to be January 14th, noon Eastern time. It's going to be in the Bounce House, UCF's home stadium in Orlando. But tell us a little bit more about it, man.
yeah. So the Hula Bowl was started in trying to find it, 1947 in Hawaii. The original game had mainland collegiate players against local Hawaiian players, but it's been an exclusive Hawaii or collegiate game since 1960. So from 1947 all the way to 2008, the Hula Bowl was played in Hawaii on a continuous basis until after the 2008 game. The bowl game ceased operations and would not return until 2020, January 2020, where it spent 2 years in Hawaii. In fact, fun fact, I'm not sure how many people know that the last sporting event at Aloha Stadium was the 2021 Aloha Bowl. So with all the uncertainty that's happened with Hawaii Stadium, with them now playing at Clarence T.C. Ching Stadium, which the stadium situation is resolved for now. The bowl moved to Orlando, which it's sad. I'm not sure how many people hula in Orlando, but we have the Hula Bowl. I went last year. Vili the Warrior, the old mascot of Hawaii, with the Pacific Islander paint and the Pacific Islander garb and the Warrior garb. He was there. He performed. He performed the drums and everything. Performed a dance. It was great. So there's still Hawaiian aspects of it. They did vow to continue to invite Hawaii players, but I just don't think Hawaii had any really noteworthy seniors. Granted, the tough year they had, which is kind of sad. But maybe next year the heritage of Hawaii and the Hula Bowl continue. But that's a little brief history of the Hula Bowl. Glad it came back. I just want it back in Hawaii. I'm sure a lot of people just want it back in Hawaii. Nothing against Orlando, but
I think a lot of people, Omar, are like struggling to find that balance. Or a lot of people within the Hula Bowl committee are like trying to find that balance between, hey, honoring our heritage and not putting a Hawaii football player that, with no disrespect, has no business being out there among guys that are trying to get an NFL contract, right? So I think you do have to find that balance, and no one would love it more than us for Hawaii to have guys that are at that level. We just have not seen it in recent history. It's going to be a little bit of a rebuild before we do see that again.
last year there was a couple guys that made appearances this year. I think this year's team was just so young and unexperienced because of
Right.
the
With the
fallout with
coaching
Todd
change.
Graham.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, because everyone transferred I think they only had 37 players on the roster before the 2021 Hawaii Bowl, which is why that game got canceled because everyone else opted out or transferred because Todd Graham pretty much ran that program to the ground in 2 years. It's just really sad.
So Omar, next time you go to the Hula Bowl, are you going to be staying at Disney's Polynesian, like a Hawaiian themed resort down there? Maybe make a little trip. I know it's a little bit more south of the Bounce House, but
I'll tell you
no.
what. I'll tell you what. My girlfriend I've thrown the idea in the air of going to a Disney World if she can just let me go to the Hula Bowl again. Thrown that idea in
I
the
think
air,
that's a fair compromise. You're
I
staying at
think
a
it is a fair
Hawaiian themed
deal.
resort. You're watching the Hula Bowl. You get a little Dole Whip. Man, it's a win-win-win. Honestly,
It's a win-lose. That's what it is.
I mean, it's only like $600 a night, man. Like, you
Holy
really
cow.
should get
Well,
right
thanks for
on
telling
that.
me, Jackson. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, we're okay. We'll find somewhere else to stay. Thank you for telling
You
me.
can eat there. You can eat there, but yeah, man. Well, if you the Hula Bowl, obviously the Senior Bowl and the East West Shrine game or East West Shrine Bowl are all have a lot of storied players. The Hula Bowl is not short of that, man. Like it had Dion back in the day, had Eric Dickerson, had Drew Brees. Like it's as far as top level talent, like the Hula Bowl is not lacking in alumni. So it's awesome to see that. That's something you see them advertise and something that guys should take pride in, that, hey, I'm playing in the same game. And it's probably only improved that, that Dion got to play in, that Drew got to play in. So
Flutie as
it's
well.
awesome to see.
Yeah, Doug Flutie after his Heisman year also played. So it's like just an idea that
Yes, that's right.
yeah,
That's right. Absolutely.
yeah.
And it does have players from Japan, from Canada, from the UK, from Australia playing in it this year. So it's like it does honor maybe not Hawaii specifically, but just I don't even want to say the Pacific, I guess, if it's but it's got guys from really all over the world, and something that we're seeing the NFL pushing a lot more in its global expansion. And just in football in general, man, football is becoming more and more popular worldwide, and then eventually hope to see it be an Olympic sport, right?
Yeah.
But absolutely, I'll go into kind of how does this relate from a scouting perspective, right? Omar, the historian, me, I'm more of the nerdy side of things. So we'll go into really the selection process is done by the Hula Bowl selection committee. It's made up of former college and professional football players. And the number one deciding factor for this committee is guys that, quote, have potential to make a professional football roster. So, I mean, we talked about just a couple minutes ago, you want to honor the heritage as much as you can, but everyone that's going to the game is going there with the intention of improving their chances to make ideally an NFL roster, though that may be the CFL, XFL, USFL, etc. Coaches this year in the Hula Bowl, I mean, it's like over 500 years of experience combined, which is insane. Mike Smith and Brian Billick. I know Brian Billick was there last year. I'm not sure about Mike Smith, although I do believe he was the other head coach. David Coley, you might remember the previous Houston Texans head coach. One and done there, unfortunately, but still, I mean, an NFL head coach in the building. Ted Cottrell, the former Buffalo Bills defensive coordinator. The special teams coordinator for under Mike Smith is going to be Gary Zahner. He was a special teams coordinator in the National Football League for like 13 years with Arizona, Minnesota, Baltimore, hosts a ton of camps for free agents, college kids, high school kids who want to improve their rankings on special teams. Like really just a lot of experience and just going to be a lot of insight, considering that this isn't the Reese's Senior Bowl. A lot of these guys playing are probably going to need to play on special teams. So it's awesome they're bringing in that experience to allow guys to learn in that regard. One more assistant that I want to point out, Tim Lewis is one of the defensive coordinators for the game. He is currently the defensive coordinator for the Arlington Renegades in the XFL. Omar, it's not unlike what the Senior Bowl does with current NFL head coaches being on staff. You have like current XFL coaches being on the staff, something that I think I wouldn't be shocked if it contributes to some of these guys getting an XFL contract, right? If we can see this trend continue. So something that I thought that was interesting. So one more thing, as far as how the teams are divided and all of that, the teams are divided deliberately to ensure exciting and balanced matchups. So I think we've seen, I think the days of like East versus West and North versus South, I think those days are long gone. I know we saw it the other day in the All-American game in high school. It was East versus West. It was like an absolute blowout. So I think we're moving away from geography. It's just the East and the South specifically have so much talent. We're moving more towards being neutral. So Omar, if you're listening to the show, is expressing with his body language that he's not in favor of this change.
Stupid. It's stupid, man.
It's stupid to put it succinctly, as Omar said.
It's okay because like with the Pro Bowl kind of going to flag football, it's like has society surpassed the need of all-star games? You know what I mean? It's like it's sad to say, it's kind of going that direction, which I don't think games like this. So it's like last year when we were on the HBCU Pigskin podcast, right? And we had Jose Jefferson, the head of the College Gridiron Showcase, talking to us. Like they just do drills. Like they don't play an actual game. They play a controlled scrimmage. Because like end of the day, I don't think anyone in this, and I'm sorry, this is kind of like a human geography lesson, but like in this world that's like shrinked, where it's like the East or the West has become the East, with UCLA and USC going to the Big Ten, being the same conference as Rutgers and Penn State. It's not like regional rivalries matter as much. So that's a different story for a different time. But I still think it's stupid as heck.
No, I would agree with you there. That's something I didn't even think about as far as the conference realignment aspect of it. And it has, I remember it was not that long ago, we were talking about, it is ridiculous that West Virginia is in the Big 12. And it's like, now we're talking about like 2 Los Angeles based teams, probably, every other year going on the road to Ohio State. So no, that's a good point you bring up, Omar. And I don't want to say that we've surpassed the need for all-star games, specifically the Senior Bowl. I think has never been more important in the NFL process. I think the Shrine Bowl is trying to get of that same importance to the NFL themselves. And you can really see that momentum just alone in the fact that it's moved to an NFL stadium. I think a lot of these games are trying to put their players in the best possible situations and get as many eyes in front of them as possible. So, one more tidbit that I pointed out to you, Omar. I always love seeing, hey, what kind of football is being used? We do have official NFL game balls, the Duke being used in this game with a custom Hula Bowl logo on the side. So shout out to Wilson for sending those over. It's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's got to be. You better ask Izzy for that as a birthday gift. I mean,
I really should, man. I really should. People laugh about, hey, who cares what kind of ball is being used? Remember how Jamar Chase had a lot of preseason drops in his first year because he's and his reasoning was there's no stripes on NFL footballs. I didn't see the ball come at me, and people were laughing like, oh my gosh, this guy's a bust. Jamar's doing okay, it turns out. So, maybe it's good that they're getting these, these little tweaks done in Hawaii instead of in August and in an NFL facility.
Well, I just got to say this. Jamar Chase is doing fine, but how many drop passes does Penei Sewell have in his career? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, point taken. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. Well, we will move on to the main portion of the program, really going over personnel playing in this game. I think the format that we want to do, Omar, we'll talk about 2 quarterbacks each just to kind of go over, since that is going to be the main focus. I want to go with 4 skill players, so wide receivers, running backs, and tight ends that intrigue us. Or not just 4 skill players, 4 offensive players. One of mine is a lineman, so I should specify 3 defensive guys as well. And then why not shout out a special teamer at the end? So Omar, I guess we'll start off with quarterbacks, just like everyone else. Who's your first quarterback that you'd like to see?
So me, being a Patriot League guy, a Patriot League fan, savant, I think you know which direction I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go with the Josh Allen of the B train, Tim DeMorat. And honestly, this year, I don't think he was robbed. In any other year where, let's say, Lindsey Scott doesn't exist, he wins the Walter Payton Award. because Demore had over 4,800 yards, 56 touchdowns passing, 5 rushing touchdowns. 4,800 yards passing. And the year before, 3,200 yards passing, 31 touchdowns. So the past couple of years, he's just been amazing. And I looked at his tape against Ohio, a team that won the MAC East, a team that won, I believe, 9 games out of the out of the MAC. They won 9 games out of the MAC and beat Wyoming, the Arizona Bowl. He looked great. I mean, his strength is in the intermediate passing game. A lot of great timing routes. He had great time with his receiver. I think I'm gonna butcher his name, Photos Kokoshulis. But I'm sorry, Photos, but I mean, I butchered your name, but yeah, like he did great in the intermediate passing game against Ohio. The one concern I think pro scouts might have that Demorat might right the ship with is against good competition, because he doesn't have one game against Power Five. He played against Nebraska last year in 2021. Had a touchdown and 3 picks, 165 yards. Definitely wasn't his best game, but I'm excited to see Demorat play, especially on national TV, because even a lot of Fordham's games, even their game against Ohio when they lost 55-53, like that game was a footnote on the national stage. The only reason that Holy Cross Fordham ended up with a spot in college football finals because Holy Cross ran the Crusaders special, in overtime, for a 2-point conversion to win the game. So I mean, I'm excited to see him play on national TV, and I'm sure that I think the Hula Bowl will have a lot of good viewership early on as a lead-in to the NFL, as a lead-in to at least Niners Seahawks. But a lot of eyes will be on Tim Demorat, and it's just I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Tim Demorat is a guy that we've talked about for so long at this point. This is a funny story that I think I forgot to tell you for work. I was talking with a Fordham faculty member, and I brought up, hey, Fordham actually did not bad in football this year. Like Tim Demorat had a year, and he was like, who? So, you know what? Maybe unfortunately not gaining the traction that he deserves on his own campus, but he certainly is in I want to say NFL circles, and especially Group of Five circles, man. Like everyone knows who are not Group of Five, but everyone knows who Tim Demorat is if you follow the FCS level. Excuse me, not the Group of Five, but yeah, man, I'll go polar opposite into the spectrum. Although it is just a few miles south. Sean Clifford from Penn State. Kind of a funny story, right? Fairy tale ending with the Rose Bowl victory to cap off his career at Penn State. Sean and his girlfriend immediately afterward headed to Iceland for a vacation, and he had to head back early to come to practice for the game. So, I mean, QBs are already such an unknown, right? I'm just kind of excited to see him in a new environment, hopefully refreshed after such a great Rose Bowl win and a little vacation in Iceland with a significant other. So, it'll be fun to watch Sean, and a lot of I personally, I'm not the highest on him, but I did not think Brock Purdy would. I didn't think he'd be on an NFL roster this time of year. So don't listen to anything I say. So.
Yeah, I agree. So the same thing with like Brock Purdy for me. I went on a podcast saying that EJ Perry was a better prospect out of the Shrine Bowl than Brock Purdy. And what do you know? I even said the Niners should have drafted EJ Perry instead of Brock Purdy. I want to recant those statements after Brock Purdy's great performance as a Niners fan. I was never rooting against you. I was just expressing my frustration as an Ivy League football fan. Never rooting against you, Brock. But that being said, like
if you had asked me to make a 2023 bingo card like a few months ago, apologizing for Brock Purdy takes was not going to be on there. I did not foresee us ever having to do that.
No, I mean, because I thought he's just gonna be this guy who's like gonna hang around, kind of be like a Nate Sudfeld guy. It's like, oh, this guy's on an NFL roster still. Great, like that's good for him.
Cool. I remember him.
Yeah, up here in a meaningless week 18 game or week 17 game like in 2020, on Sunday Night Football, all of a sudden, like, the nation's watching Nate Sudfeld, that type of thing. But I'm happy with Brock Purdy, with what Brock Purdy's done, and honestly, he just reminds me of back in the early 90s, Joe Montana out for the season, Steve Young out for the season. Who comes in? Steve Bono comes in, and even though the Niners missed the playoffs with like a 10-6 record, I mean, Bono did great and got himself a contract with the Chiefs. But that being said, I think Sean Clifford, it's like players like him. I think he has pro potential for sure. Being a Penn State quarterback, we've seen Trace McSorley stick around the league, almost beat Tom Brady on Christmas, right? but I feel like Clifford has kind of like the same career trajectory. Guys like him show that the Hula Bowl is kind of like a celebration of college football. You have a Rose Bowl champion quarterback, and that's why I just love the Hula Bowl so much, because like it celebrates guys' careers. It celebrates a guy's career like the next guy, Malik Cunningham, who honestly, I think throughout his career, we just underappreciate Malik Cunningham because he came after Lamar Jackson and he did some great things. Like he pulled off the Tuiasosopo, one of the rarest things that's done in college football. I think only 3 quarterbacks have had 300 passing yards and 200 rushing yards in the game. He did that last year on a Thursday night against Duke. And we didn't really give him much love, but I like Malik Cunningham a lot. This year he was hurt. He's the all-time leading touchdown scorer for Louisville. All-time leading total touchdown scorer. He has 120 total touchdowns, 70 passing, 50 rushing, 70 to 29 touchdown interception ratio. Doesn't make much mistakes. Great running the ball. I think he's going to need some work as a passer. But I feel like if there's a franchise that's willing to take a chance on him and develop him, I think he can become a guy that can be polished as a stand-in starter, fill-in starter, a guy like Tyler Huntley, a guy like Anthony Brown, who played in the Hula Bowl last year, and it already has 1 start to his name, and already like has 2 games. One game where he came in, where he stepped in late in the game for the Ravens against the Steelers, and just didn't make any mistakes, and completed a clutch 3rd down. I think he can be a guy like that. But the thing is too, it's like I remember talking to Neil about I think it was either Jalen Hurts, but it's like you want your backup quarterbacks to have the same skill sets as your starting quarterbacks. I just don't know how many starting quarterbacks that have the same skill sets as like Malik Cunningham that he would be a backup for, where you can just put him in as a stand-in and like you wouldn't have to change a playbook much. Of course, the Ravens, with Greg Roman running the early 2010s Niners playbook. I mean, the league figured that out long ago. Honestly, I think Roman's play calling is holding back both, not just Lamar Jackson, but Tyler Huntley. But I think the teams that he would fit on as a backup, maybe like the Ravens, the Bills. I think he has a similar skill set to Josh Allen running the ball. The Giants, even, and of course the Eagles of Jalen Hurts. So if he can stick on with one of those teams as a stand-in backup, I would love to see it, because Malik Cunningham is too good to not be playing football.
No, absolutely, man. Malik is a guy that has such a high ceiling. Like you said, I mean, he beat out Teddy Two Gloves. He beat out Lamar for the leading all-time touchdown leader at Louisville. So clearly has a lot of talent. He needs to find an offense that is going to be friendly to his skill set, though. And I mean, obviously Baltimore jumps out at the top of everyone's head, but I'm looking forward to seeing where he lands, and hopefully the Hula Bowl can get him in front of the right person, right, to where they can see his skill set. So I'll go with my final quarterback, Lindsey Scott, the quarterback from Incarnate Word, Walter Payton Award winner. So just obviously very decorated quarterback. 5th college in 7 years. So he's hopped around a bunch. I look at that not as a negative, but like I look for him to probably pick up this playbook pretty quick from this week, as small as it is. He made the SEC academic honor roll, went on the scout team in Missouri. So he's more than capable of learning, processing all this information quickly. So Lindsey Scott, man, I mean, pulling for him. I think we both have for a long time. It's awesome to see him finally get recognized, as much as I'm blanking on his name, the running back or the fullback from North Dakota State. I honestly thought yeah. I thought he would win it, but I'm glad to see Lindsey Scott receive the award and move on in the next stage in his career.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think Lindsey Scott, like you said, picking the playbook is like huge. I think I agree that I'll do that just fine. I think my one concern for him is like the talent's there. I just don't know how much of it was the system at UIW. Because they have an amazing system. I'm not saying he's a system quarterback, but I think that he'll do great in any system. But I wonder how much the numbers played a role. But like we love Lindsey Scott, like just amazing, just video game numbers, like him and Demorat. That was such an underrated story in the college football season. Like who would win the Walter Payton Award, because they both put up just amazing numbers. Yeah, I guess just to put a bow on the quarterback position, a couple more guys that I like that are on this roster that I like a lot. I'm going to start off with Holton Ahlers. And again, we mentioned the Hula Bowl, of course, the celebration of college football. Holton Ahlers has meant so much to this darn program at East Carolina out there in Greenville. 97 career touchdowns passing, 37 rushing touchdowns, 13,933 yards. Also ran for 25 touchdowns in his career. Ran for 1,446 yards rushing in his career. And Holton Ahlers is a guy that's like, he's stuck through thick and thin with that program. Got them bowl as well last year. The bowl got canceled due to COVID for they went to the military bowl. This year they go to a bowl. They end up beating Coastal Carolina and Birmingham. Just a great career. And he's just a big guy, 6'3", 230, can take the hits. And honestly, I mean, he can be your backup. You can even put him in a wildcat package, a nice goal line package as well. I can see Holton Ahlers being that. And then also Tanner Morgan too. We didn't talk much about Tanner Morgan, but Tanner Morgan, honestly, his magnum opus of a performance was Penn State 2019. If you want to know what Tanner Morgan can do, just put on highlights of that game. 18 for 20, 339 yards, I think 4 touchdowns. Morgan throws a good deep ball, his good touch. But I think the one thing that knocks him is just he played on a run-heavy scheme. Of course, everyone focused on Mo Ibrahim. I feel like Tanner Morgan, this isn't his ceiling, but I feel like it would fit well in the USFL because USFL had really run-heavy teams. Not a single team averaged over 200 passing yards per game. So, you get a strong run game, get some nice play action with Tanner Morgan, and you'll be good to go, honestly. So that, just to put a ball in the quarterbacks there. Jackson, who was your first skill guy?
My first skill guy, I'm going to go with Ed Lee, the wide receiver from Rhode Island. 5'10", 185, so probably going to be used more as a slot guy than on the outside. Made the all CAA third team as a punt returner actually as well. So he made first team as wide receiver, third team as a punt returner. Always helps to have that contribution on special teams. I don't know what else to say, man. It runs in the family. Like Ed's dad actually played for the Lions a lot in the 80s. Just has sheer athleticism. Played football, basketball, and track. In high school. He was a top 5 wide receiver at the Nike opening in high school. He's he's a little bit of a late bloomer. 72% of his yards and 65% of all of his receptions were actually in his senior year. So really has had obviously a breakout year, right? But looking forward to seeing, hey, can Ed be developed a little bit more this week? Can he get some eyes? I don't think there are too many scouts going along to Rhode Island every week in and week out. So hope to see Ed get a little bit more of a chance and can make a name for himself.
Yeah, Ed Lee was a guy that I originally looked at, because I want to shine some light on Rhode Island, but got another Rhode Island player that to watch for myself. So I'm glad you're shouting out some New England Colonial Athletic Association football. But Ed Lee, that's a guy. I think a lot of I guess the connecting link with a lot of these guys is like their ability to make plays in space. Like Ed Lee, he's had some returns to his name. He's got kind of the build to be a return man. Same thing as my guy, Keelan Harris, who, just an electric player out of Oklahoma Baptist University, out in the NAIA. I'm excited to see him go on national TV. I mean, last year, the receiver from, I guess, that sort of level that got attention was Andrew Kaminsky from North Central, had a 2,000-yard receiving season, which also congratulations to North Central for winning the Division III title. But Keelan Harris, one word to describe him, he's electric, honestly. 2021, last year, 92 catches, 1,084 yards, 16 touchdowns. The year after, this year, 80 catches, 1,050 yards, 7 touchdowns. And also in the return game, too. 1,570 career return yards, 70 returns, over a 20-yard average, 1 touchdown, 1 kick return touchdown. So, I mean, Keelan Harris, honestly, I think he's worthy of a roster spot as a receiver with numbers like that. And yeah, you can play the strength of competition game, but the guy is just a possession receiver. I mean, you can throw him the ball so many times a game, and he just seems to get better as the game goes on. From a return man standpoint, I think he absolutely can. I think it's more realistic for him to at least start off as a kick returner and then, become, I guess, work his way into the receiving rotation. So I'm excited for Keelan Harris. And I just love these all-star games that give like guys a chance, like guys like this. Oklahoma, I'd never heard of Oklahoma Baptist before this. And now I'm excited. Like I'll probably be one of their biggest fans after, Keelan Harris goes off. So
I would expect nothing less, man. I know you will be. That's awesome. I will go with my next skill position player. Another wide receiver for me, Elijah Cooks from San Jose State. 6'4", 215, so has plenty of size. He was really used as a true X receiver. But he's more slippery than you might think at first glance, right? He definitely has the ability to get yards after contact more than anything else. I mean, I'm not saying he's Kadarius Toney, but he certainly has the ability to kind of have good contact balance, if that makes sense. Used as a deep threat more than anything else. Although even the goal line fade works on him with his length. Excited to hopefully get some good measurables here at Hula Bowl practice week and finally know his arm length and all that good stuff. He transferred from Nevada before coming to San Jose State. Actually has the school bowl game record for most receiving yards in a bowl game for Nevada. He had 197 in the 2019 famous Idaho Potato Bowl. If you're a Washington State sports fan in general, the name might sound familiar. His sister is fourth all time for most games played in women's basketball. So just something to keep in mind for a very athletic family over there.
Yeah, I mean Elijah Cooks as well. I mean, San Jose State is gonna air the ball out like the past 2020 and 2021 with Nick Starkel. Of course, they had Trey Walker and Bailey Gaither from the 2020 team just making plays out in the USFL in the spring. So they're gonna air the ball. This year was no different. Chevin Cordero had a great year for San Jose State. Elijah Cooks had a pretty solid performance in the bowl game. Caught a really great touchdown pass against Eastern Michigan in the bowl game. So I'm excited to see what he does. Brent Brennan, just creating just a great program. Excuse me, geez, creating a great program out there in San Jose. And I mean, I think the offense is what a lot of people think of when they think about San Jose State. Jeez. Anyway, so going on to my next guy, I'm gonna stay in the Mountain West. I'm gonna oddly enough stay with the Nevada connection. Flashback to 2010, right? The great backfield that they had. You had Colin Kaepernick and Toa Tawa leading Nevada, or Colin Kaepernick and Vi Tawa leading Nevada. I already spoiled it. Leading Nevada to the WAC championship, leading Nevada to the WAC championship. Years later, I mean, Toa followed his brother's footsteps. Vi Tawa was on the coaching staff as a running backs coach. Couldn't write a better story. Nevada's not really running the pistol anymore, but Toa Tawa's had an amazing career at Nevada. Just, I mean, a versatile back and catch passes in the backfield. 5'9", 215. I would love to see Toa play. Honestly, I'm being selfish on the Niners, but we need to stop getting rookie running backs and draft other positions. Like we got a couple running backs and now like JaMychal Hasty's on like the Jaguars now because we can't stop drafting running backs. But I would love to see Toa Tawa in a power scheme like that, or even like the Ravens as well. A team that uses a fullback and is not afraid to run inside the tackles. But Toa Tawa's great size. He's a good catching the ball out of the backfield as he did many times with Carson Strong. So I'm excited to see Toa play, following his brother footsteps. It's just a darn shame that there was no Hula Bowl when Vi Tawa. As a kid, I used to call Vi Tawa, the Tower of Power. So now we got Toa Tawa, the Tower of Power. So I'm just great. I'm just glad to see just him, and he could have transferred too. Let's be real. Like when Jay Norvell took the job of Colorado State, he could have transferred too, like Elijah Cooks. But his career is a testament to just loving your school because his brother played there. Just like it's just a great story. There's so many great stories in the Hula Bowl.
Absolutely, man. Like all of these guys have a great story behind them. It's just if it weren't for the Hula Bowl, at least myself, like I would not know really any of these stories. And so it's just awesome to see. And definitely one of my favorite parts is it's not all about scouting and draft season. A lot of these guys is like, hey, this is one of the last times they're going to play football as in general, right? So you might as well celebrate them as much as we can. So I'll go with my next guy. I'll go with another receiver just because there weren't too many like tight ends and running backs that really popped out the page for me. I'm gonna go with Trey Shropshire, the wide receiver from UAB. Anytime I can highlight the Brian Vincent offense, I will. He actually led the nation, man, in yards per catch at 26 yards, which is just an insane number. Only made a CUSA honorable mention. Not really something I think scouts take into account, but I just found it interesting that he's the leader of the nation. Not even Marvin Harrison Jr. None of these guys beat him in a very major category, and CUSA honorable mention is the best we can do. So 6'3", 195, again, more of an outside guy. When he gets the ball, he's explosive, just doesn't have the most targets of anyone. So looking forward to seeing what he does here. And hey, he's finally playing alongside equal talent. Maybe it takes a little bit less attention off of him. So maybe we can see him pop off a little bit.
So I'm excited to see guys like Trey Shropshire. So something I've noticed too, something I noticed when I was looking at the receivers in this game is I noticed guys like Shropshire, who spearheaded that attack for UAB, Dwayne McBride, right?
Right.
Over 1,700 yards, I believe. You look at Deuce Watts, which isn't one of the players to watch, who spearheaded the attack. Everyone knows about Tajay Spears now when they should have known about him months ago when we were talking about him. But anyway, so it's like a lot of those guys I think thrived on the play action game. And it's just, I think it'll be cool to see them play in like passing first attacks. Even Oregon State has a receiver. His name's escaping me right now, but I saw he was recently invited. But Oregon State has a receiver, and Oregon State love to run the ball. And I mean, I'm sure Jackson, like you saw that, in Las Vegas, Trayshawn Harrison. So Trayshawn Harrison as well on that from that Oregon State attack, love to run the ball, especially in Vegas. They ran the ball very well. Sorry, I had to throw
Thank
that
you
to
for
you.
pointing that out. Yeah, thanks, Omar. Which
But
bowl
but
you
yeah.
go to again?
Next question. Anyway, and anyway, but I just think it's interesting seeing those guys in those schemes, like kind of, I guess like kind of receive like, adequate touches, just like without the shadow of a solid run game. But that being said, like on attacks with like deep with great play action schemes, I would love to see like them thrive in those schemes. Going on to my next offensive guy, there's just so many great tight ends in this game. Like the tight end position, maybe the deepest one this whole game. And the thing is, it's like almost all of them are like FCS guys. So the first guy I'm going to go with is Kamari Averett. Just watching his tape, he is just amazing in traffic. For Bethune-Cookman, just amazing in traffic. Kind of reminds me of Mike Gesicki. I hope he can gritty better than Mike Gesicki, which I think he can. But Kamari Averett had just a great year, great 2021. I think defense is kind of keyed in on him. He had 10 touchdowns and 52 catches last year in 2021, 888 yards. This year, a little bit less catches, 39 for 445, but still 7 touchdowns. So it's like watching his tape, he's got just great jump ball skills. Like honestly, like you can put him on the edge, like you put Mike Gesicki and throw a fade to him, and he's gonna catch it. So Kamari Averett out there for Bethune-Cookman. Honestly, I think that's such a smart thing. Just looking at the money making perspective, like the Hula Bowl struggled with attendance last year. Mackenzie Milton. Bringing Mackenzie Milton in, which I got to say, Mackenzie Milton's final drive in the Hula Bowl last year was probably one of the saddest moments in sports I've ever experienced in my life. And that's watching on TV and watching in person. Like everyone wanted Mackenzie Milton to score a touchdown or like to drive them down for the game-winning field goal, and it looked like he was going to do it, but he threw an interception. It was just like it broke my heart. But the Hula Bowl brought a local talent in Kamari Averett, Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman fans travel well every year. Them and FAMU fans fill the Citrus Bowl. I know it's not called the Citrus Bowl anymore. Do I care? I do not care. But they fill the Citrus Bowl every year. So I think the Bethune-Cookman fans are gonna come in droves to see their guy make the short drive from Daytona Beach to see their guy play, and hopefully he catches a fade or two because I mean it's something to see. He's got amazing ball skills.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Lots of talent on this, especially in the tight end room. Like you said, there's a ton, like 100 players in this game. I wish I had the time to scout all these guys. I got enamored with a lot of these receivers. So when I go back and maybe do some post-show research on some of these guys. So I'm going to go, I don't have a skill guy as my last offensive player. I'm going to go with Khalil Keith, the right tackle from Baylor. 6'5", 314. He started at both left guard and right tackle. Some people think to kick him inside. I think the general assumption though is that he probably will play on as a right tackle though at the next level. I mean, Baylor, a lot of run zone blocking, right? He'll play alongside teammate Grant Miller in the game, so not going to be the only Bear represented over there. But one of the Power 5 linemen that I think has one of the better shots to make it at the next level. So looking forward to seeing Khalil play. I've seen him play in person. Wasn't scouting him back then when he was an underclassman, but it'll be fun to see him play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and there's a couple good linemen. There's a lineman from Shepherd University, Division Two. I'm trying to find his name. But I like going on with the tight end room. The tight end room is just so solid. Lackland Pitts averaged almost 20 yards a catch this year for William and Mary over that program that had just a great turnaround year out there in Virginia. So Lackland Pitts is a guy that reminds me a lot of Isaiah Likely. It's like hard to find tight ends. You find tight ends that kind of like are great in the intermediate game, but you hardly find tight ends that like really stretch the field. And Lackland Pitts kind of reminds me of Isaiah Likely senior year at Coastal Carolina, or junior and senior year at Coastal Carolina, where like they just stretch the field so well. So I would love to see Lackland Pitts get a shot in a great passing scheme. And then another tight end that caught my eye was Ryan Miller from Furman. Furman's first ever first ever 3-time All-American. 72 catches, 762 yards. More of a possession guy, more of a guy reminds me of like Jonnu Smith, a guy like Cameron Brate, Jackson, a guy that I like. I'm not a Bucks fan, but I like the Harvard grad Cameron Brate a lot. Ryan Miller is he's just a guy that kind of like the ideal tight end. The size isn't exactly there. He's 6'2", 209, which is kind of alarming because I didn't think tight ends were that small. But
No, sure.
yeah, but again, I think he can definitely find a place in the offense as an H-back, as a guy that comes out of the backfield. So I'm excited to see Ryan Miller, what they'll do with him in the flat, because the Hula Bowl is a real all-star game. They still invite fullbacks. They got a fullback from UTEP. They got a fullback from Arizona State. Last year they had Joey Kenny playing in the game. So Joey Kenny from Rhode Island. So I'm excited to see like what they do with the passing concepts for guys like Ryan Miller. So yeah. And oh, sorry, we muted myself, but also too, just want to shout out those two fullbacks, which let's see. We got one from Arizona State, one fullback. Oh, this is adding time to the pod, but Chase Hatch, yeah, we got Chase Hatch and Trent Thompson from UTEP, which I had the blessing to see Trent Thompson down here in the 915 play with a great run scheme. So just a lot of great inside runs, and great, if you like fullbacks, this is the ball game for you. And the shout out to the Shepherd lineman Joey Fisher for Shepherd, who made the Division II semifinals. So a lot of small schools being showcased.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. I think that wraps up our offensive portion. We'll go ahead and go over to the defensive side of the ball. My first guy, I'm going to go with Kendrick Duncan. This safety has also played a little bit linebacker for Louisville, Georgia Southern transfer. So finished up his eligibility at Louisville, though. He's seen snaps really all over the field, as we're seeing in the NFL, like the safety and linebacker position being more, that line is being blurred more and more every year, it seems like. Duncan has played at slot corner, even outside corner, a few snaps. Like, he can really add depth wherever you put him on the field. So I'm excited to see where he ends up being played in this game, if they'll kind of rotate him all around. He plays single high, can play split safety. I think it's really comfortable just about anywhere on the field. Really has a great understanding of the game just in general. He actually gained a little bit of interest at quarterback from Georgia Tech and Tulsa. So it just shows you his understanding of the game. A lot of people thought that he would move on and enter the draft last year. Pro Football Network had him in an article from last year as a possible day 2 pick. It's really just the athleticism that's kind of like holding him back. He's just not the smoothest athlete, but knows the game, is comfortable lining up anywhere. Looking forward to seeing Kendrick hopefully really show out and against a very good competition. You're not really allowed to do many blitzes, many disguises, things like that in an all-star game, right? So I'm looking forward to see, hey, they're going to know what he's going to be doing. So it's not like, he can really fool anyone there. Does he have the athleticism to win one-on-one matchups?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what this week's for, like a lot of those one-on-one matchups. So we'll see against like great receivers, like you mentioned, like these the great receivers in this game we both talked about. So very excited there to see like these defensive matchups. So I'm gonna stay, of course, like on the defensive secondary. I'm gonna go with Benny Sapp for Northern Iowa, UNI. And Benny Sapp, like when you think about safeties, you think about like I guess there's like different types of safeties. Of course, there's different types of players at each position. You got the guys that are great turnover forcers, like Charles Tillman. Great. Or was Charles Tillman a safety or corner? I'm kind of forgetting. I thought he was a safety, right?
I believe this is safety. I
Yeah.
believe this is safety,
I'm
but
doubt I'm doubting myself, but yeah, Charles Tillman, guys that force turnovers. You got your hard hitters, of course. You got your guys like Andrew Sendejo, great, like your hard hitters, your hitting focus safeties. You got your center fielders, like Ed Reed, and I think Benny Sapp is a center fielder because the past 2 years he's had 4 interceptions in each season. His tackle numbers are a bit low, but I think that's just because like he just plays the center field position so well. He just scans the field well, is able to get those interceptions. He had 6 pass breakups and 7 pass breakups, 6 pass breakups this year, 7 last year. And I mean, I'm excited to see Benny Sapp play. And honestly, like competition's there, frankly. Last year he was he lined up again, didn't line up against, but Christian Watson was running routes against that Northern Iowa defense. So the competition's there. It's been there with like North Dakota. Of course, this year, South Dakota State had the Yankee brothers, Jackson and Jaden, who would have played in this game, but they're returning next year to Brookings, South Dakota. So just great that he plays against great competition. Like I don't think that's a doubt, and I'm excited for the country to see what Benny Sapp can do.
yeah, level of competition is not the issue, just maybe how many eyes are on it, right? So, no, absolutely. I will go with another Fordham player, Omar. So hopefully, just let me take him. All right. Ryan Greenhagen, the linebacker from Fordham, set school records there for total tackles, solo tackles, career TFLs. Has a Division I record with 30 tackles at Nebraska on the road at Nebraska. 30 tackles. That's in a game, Omar. This is like an insane number on the road. And despite it being like a 56-7 blowout, I mean, it was almost bad as the TCU Georgia game. Still 30 tackles, just a phenomenal showing on the road and what truly is a tough environment. So I doubt it's going to be as intimidating as that Nebraska environment over there in the Hula Bowl, probably a little bit more relaxed. But if he can rack up 30 tackles in an all-star game against this level of competition, I mean, he's probably going to improve his draft stock a little bit. So probably won't be able to do that, but definitely look for him to be productive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Greenhagen, I honestly think Greenhagen is gonna like make plays for himself in this league. And I don't think it's just gonna be on special teams because again, like you mentioned, the record for tackles at Fordham, he had that like insane like 30 tackle game, I think, against Nebraska, right? Yeah, like the game against Nebraska. Like this guy has a nose for the football. Maybe it's a cliche, but he has a nose for the football. And I just think it's something you just can't teach, honestly. Sure he played at Fordham, but it's like honestly I mean, he had that record against Nebraska. He was able to shed blocks and just get to the ball at the right time. So I really think there's a great future for Ryan Greenhagen. So I'm going to stay in the Patriot League because who would have thought that we'd been spending so much time in the Patriot League during this podcast? I'm going to go with Liam Anderson. Holy Cross's first Hula Bowl player ever, surprisingly. The dominant Holy Cross Crusaders have instead chosen to play in games like the Senior Bowl and the East West Shrine Bowl and the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, but not the Hula Bowl, unfortunately. Airfare from Worcester, Massachusetts to Hawaii can get pretty expensive, I would assume. But all jokes aside, Liam Anderson, part of the great linebacker duo of Jacob Dobbs, who got hurt and was on Jim Nagy's radar, as we both know, for the Senior Bowl. He got hurt, so a lot of the load was on Liam Anderson this year, and Liam Anderson just did not disappoint in this dominant Holy Cross defense. The past 2 years, Liam Anderson has had 29.5 tackles for loss. 14.5 this year, 15 this year, 7.5 sacks last year, 3 this year, but he was still wreaking havoc in the backfield. Teams are just keying in on him more, like on blitz packages. But 86 tackles. He had also intercepts the ball very well. 6 career interceptions, 3 in 2021 from New Zealand, honestly. 6'3", 230, great size. I'm excited to see what Anderson can do. I mean, I think he's a guy like Greenhagen, like where I think he can just get in the backfield. Like his nose for the backfield is just so great that, like it's just something you just can't teach really. So I'm excited to see Liam Anderson, and that alone, that is worth the price of admission. Seeing a Holy Cross player shine in Orlando, Because back in the day, Holy Cross is a proud history in Florida. They did play in the 1946 Orange Bowl. They did lose that one to Miami on a last second interception. Unfortunately, a last second pick six. A last second pick six was like we hardly ever see, but yeah, proud history in Florida for the Crusaders.
Do you think that Liam Anderson is aware of the rich history of Holy Cross football in the state of Florida?
I mean, I think there is a banner at Fitton Field for that 1946 Holy. Well, they didn't win the bowl game, so there might not be a banner. But
Okay.
I'm sure he's aware of like guys like Gordy Lockbaum, who finished second in the Heisman or third in the Heisman in 1987 and fifth in
Hey,
1986.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I'm sure he's aware of guys
Absolutely.
like that. You know,
No, I forget sometimes that there are schools like your school, Omar, that are proud to hang up banners bragging about accomplishments from 80 years ago. So that's right. I guess it very well could be up there.
you guys put up a statue
Um,
for Steve Spurrier. You put up a Steve Spurrier statue with him as quarterback.
brother, he won a Heisman and a national championship as a head coach. Like,
We got
come
three
on, if that
Heismans.
doesn't
We got
deserve a
three
statue.
Heismans. We got three Heismans.
What years?
Okay, you can't argue if you're hyping Steve Spurrier. That happened in 1966.
Yeah, and that
That
was
was that
20
was
years later, bro. Bro, 20 years ago, Nebraska was relevant.
so we're gonna stop. Okay. So I guess your rule is you're not gonna mention Steve Spurrier's Heisman, and I won't mention Army's Heisman. Your cutoff is Danny Werfel. That's the only Heisman winner. Danny Werfel honor the only Heisman winners that you'll mention.
Bro, Spurrier won it in like 66, man. It's a different world. Different
A
world.
lot of his teammates probably aren't alive. So I mean, that's the thing.
Damn, cold, man. Really going in.
I'm just using your logic against you. I'm using your logic against
Hey,
you.
my logic is not that 1944 equals 1966. That is not my logic.
It's
That's
still
some
a long
army
time
math
ago.
there.
Well, I'm setting arbitrary barriers too. You can't talk about night. You can't talk from anything 1967 on. Not you can't even talk about John Reeves. No John Reeves talk about either.
Listen, man, if 1980 jokes weren't already dead, now they're really dead. So like I'm struggling. All right. So just let me have it.
I
Let
will
me see what
not.
I can take.
I will not. No, I will not let it go.
All right, I'm gonna move on to Brandon Boyer Randall, the linebacker from UConn, grad student transfer from Texas Tech. He was there while getting his MBA. Played 4 seasons at Michigan State before that, so a very experienced player. 98 total tackles, 8 TFLs, a forced fumble, and a couple picks from this past year. Remarkable improvement from only 19 tackles in 2021. Coming out of high school, man, he was actually considered one of the top outside linebacker prospects in the country. We know he has the athleticism. If that doesn't convince you, we also lettered in basketball and track and field back in high school. So just a really like an athletic, fast linebacker, as we're just talking about it, like combining more that safety and linebacker position. So looking forward to seeing how they use him there. If he's a linebacker, hey, maybe we can't play like a 3-3-5 or defense or something like that, but maybe we put him, put a linebacker like 10 yards off the line of scrimmage, something like that, get a little bit creative with where we put him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we just talked about so much of these like great linebackers and pass rushers. I mean, my next player is a great pass rusher as well. I mean, even last year, there's a lot of great pass rushers in the from the FCS level that were in the Hula Bowl. Isaiah Chambers is one that comes to mind from McNeese State. My next guy, how can we forget about the Buck Buchanan winner, Zeke Vandenberg, who had 14 sacks, 21 TFLs, 100 tackles, 6'3", 235. So I mean, he's got great speed for an outside rusher. Size may be an issue, but I think if he sticks on special teams, I think he'll get those reps as an outside linebacker. But you got to honor the Buck Buchanan winner. It's great for them to have the Buck Buchanan and the Walter Payton Award winner in the Hula Bowl. I'm excited to see what Vandenberg does against linemen of FBS size. Looking at this year, I mean, Illinois State, this year they played their FBS opponent was, I'm pulling it up right now, against Illinois, or for Illinois State. Got a technical difficulties here, but yeah, so Illinois State played Wisconsin this year, and Vandenberg still had a very solid game. He had 1 sack for 1 yard, 10 total tackles. So I don't think that size and lineman, because when it comes to lineman size, I don't think he gets much bigger than Wisconsin or like Big Ten country. So I think Vandenberg should do just fine, honestly, against NFL linemen, because Big Ten and Wisconsin, Iowa, schools like that produce great linemen. So I'm excited to see what he does. Again, the issue isn't competition; it's with the amount of people watching the competition, amount of people watching the players.
Exactly. How many eyes are being on, and especially when we see that I don't want to say the line being blurred between upper level Power 5 schools and the NFL. We're seeing much more analytics friendly, much more GPS friendly, is like Zebra is starting to put more GPS trackers in these college shoulder pads and stuff like that, as opposed to like you have some not group of 5, but some FCS schools like struggling to get good angles for the coaches film to be at because their stadiums aren't big enough. So it's like it's a stark difference, and hopefully this can mend some of those differences, at least if it's just for a week. I'm going to go with Darrell Middleton for my next player, the defensive tackle from Bethel. 6'7", 290, plays every bit as that. Has an interesting career, man. Started off at East Mississippi Community College, then transferred to Tennessee, then to West Virginia, then to Bethel. In 2019, you look at the level of competition, right? In 2019, he was at Tennessee, really had an immediate impact from there. 6 starts. When he played Alabama, so really probably the best team that anyone has played that's also playing in this game was Darrell Middleton against number 1 ranked Alabama in 2019. Had 4 run stuffs in the TFL. Doesn't get much better than that. So looking forward to seeing how he plays in that interior defensive line and really what that scheme is, and how he can hopefully dominate the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely. Bethel College. I mean, it's just great. Again, like we see, like these players, getting opportunities against these power conferences, because all-star games, I think they mean the most to guys like that, because a guy like Ollie Marpet, Buccaneers legend, a guy that you're well familiar with from Hobart
Absolutely.
College, getting those reps in the Senior Bowl, even Quinn Miners, what a character for the Broncos, for Wisconsin and Whitewater, getting those reps, during the practice week and in the game. It's just so huge for them, and kind of like shakes off some of those doubts, those competition-wise doubts that we have, which, like, for me, I mean, if a guy can play ball at any level, they can play ball. Like, if you can play, they'll find you. That's like my favorite saying to hear. So that caps our defense. So I guess for our specialist, I'll go first. I'm gonna go with a long snapper. We got Rob Soderholm. He is the was that your guy?
No, but you were
Okay.
close.
Okay, because you also want long snapper, right? You want the other long snapper, I'm guessing? Okay. Rob Soderholm is VMI's first Hula Bowl player and second ever. First Hula Bowl player since 1980. He's the first player since 1980 to play in the Hula Bowl for VMI. So just a huge moment for this program. VMI has struggled, honestly, since the early 80s. They did have that playoff appearance in 2020, but just, I mean, he's just a great long snapper, and it's hard to quantify really what makes a long snapper great, but a lot of the things from his scouting report is he's also asked to pick up blocks instead of, because even being a special teamer in high school and even watching special teams, like the long snappers are the first ones down there almost like all the time. But for him to also be asked to pick up blocks as well speaks highly to his capabilities and ability as a long snapper. So they don't rush punts during these bowl games, but it's just a great honor for him to get invited to not just the Hula Bowl, the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, but he also got an invite to the Senior Bowl. So, with Joe Cardona playing for the Patriots out of Navy, there must be something in the water for these senior military college and service academy long snappers. I mean, I guess there's a factory, or a pipeline or something. But Rob Soderholm, first Hula Bowl player for VMI since Craig Jones in 1980, must see TV.
Absolutely. Maybe not. Don't tune in for Seattle, San Francisco, and the Super Wildcard weekend, but maybe tune in for the VMI long snapper playing in the Hula Bowl. Absolutely. Also going to go with a long snapper. I'm going to go with Alex Ward, finalist for the Patrick Manley Award, one of the handful of college football awards we didn't cover, Omar, that goes to the best long snapper in the nation. It's awesome that he gets to play one last game in his home stadium, man. Not every day that you get to say that, unless you're a South Alabama player playing in the Senior Bowl or a UNLV player playing in the Shrine Bowl. You really don't get that opportunity. So it's awesome to see Alex get that chance and put on that UCF helmet one last time in the correct stadium to play it in.
Yeah, so I have one more special teams guy, and I'd be amiss. We love shouting out smaller schools. We got Wingate. Our friend Coach John Downing is an assistant coach for that great Wingate team. Ethan Evans playing punter for he's listed as a punter for the Hula Bowl, but you talk about versatility. So as a USFL fan, let's backtrack to the spring of 2022. As a USFL fan, there was a consistent problem in the league, and that was with kicking, because the roster sizes were super small in the USFL. I think they were definitely less than 40 players, whether that was about 38 or 37, I'm not sure. But the roster was less than 40 players, meaning that a lot of rosters could only hold a punter or a kicker. So that backfired in a lot of moments. Like it was one Friday night game. I think it was the Pittsburgh Maulers against the Michigan Panthers. I think it was the Maulers against the Panthers, where Michael Carrizosa, great punter, he was a Ray Guy finalist, misses a game-winning 21-yard field goal. So a lot of guys are out of their elements. Ethan Evans, should he play in the USFL? He will save the USFL team, or NFL team for that matter, a roster spot, because he's just so versatile. He went 10 for 18 of field goals this year. But going as a punter this year, he averaged almost 46 yards per punt, 45.7, 77 punts this year. His stats for the year: 186 punts, or stats for his career: 186 punts, 8,000 punt yards, 43-yard average. 89 of those punts were inside of the 20. So nearly half of those, I think actually half of those were inside the 20. 53 were beyond 50 yards. And he also does kickoffs. For his career, 200. Muted myself. He has 213 kickoffs, and out of all those, 120 were touchbacks. So just a very strong leg, and he can save a team a roster spot. That's a guy who can kick field goals, who's got plenty of leg. So I'm excited to see what he can do, honestly, because again, there's no rushes in these, so you'll get to see the leg talent he has. You'll get to see the hang time that he puts on his punts, and I don't think there's not kickoffs, so you won't see that. But I mean, Ethan Evans is just a sleeper prospect in my mind for a team that's looking to use a roster spot elsewhere.
Absolutely, man. You can always use depth in special teams if you can find a way to play some other position on either side of the ball too. That always helps. So, but anytime, man, if you're out of kicker, like you're just out of luck, man. Like you gotta hope these guys stay healthy. So hopefully he can get picked up as a practice squad guy or
Yeah,
something like that.
do you remember last year? And this is I thought about the USFL first because I followed the USFL religiously, but you remember 2021 when the Steelers attempted a fake field goal with Chris Boswell and he got absolutely hammered. And so they had to use Presley Harvin as kicker, and it just did not go well.
Oh, I remember
Which that's
that,
not
yeah,
that yeah,
vaguely,
it's
but yeah.
not yeah, we're not disrespecting Presley Harvin's ability as a kicker. It's just you're asked to do something like kicking and punting. It's not like you're playing Madden where you can put the punter as kicker and the kicker as punter. It's just totally different kicking forms. Like
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
it takes
It's
people
not
out of
meant
the elements when it happens.
exactly. Yeah, well, that's about it for me. Anything else you want to mention before we hop off?
Forgot to show off my Hula Bowl piggy bank. But
It's beautiful,
I'm
man.
excited for this game. It
Honestly,
is.
it
It
really
is.
is.
I'm probably the biggest Hula Bowl collector. Got my piggy bank and my foam football back there. But I'm just excited for this game. It's wish it was back in Hawaii, but it's just a celebration of just guys like I think last year in 2021, it was cool for me to see guys like Peyton Ramsey, like who in a non-pandemic year would not get like that's the praise he deserved, for leading Northwestern to the Citrus Bowl and like a one-loss season. It's a celebration of college football, like Nick Starkel too last year, leading San Jose State to their first conference title since the 80s. It's beautiful, and I'm so excited for it. It's amazing. I'm getting chills talking about it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Well, I think that's it. enjoy the game, enjoy all of this, and man, it's what a fun weekend of football we have. So.
Yep, exactly. Go Niners, and until next time, peace, love, and soul.